Hello, and welcome to Open Lines Friday of Questioning Everything. Tonight, we are going deeper again, back to some more of those catacombs from last night. Also, as the title suggests, tonight is Open Lines Friday. That means this majority of this show, hello, got my camera up here now, is all about you guys. Whatever topics you want to discuss, whatever thoughts are on your mind, tonight is all about you. So, continuing on our deep dive into the catacombs, we've already covered the Paris catacombs, the 6 million bones stacked in perfect artistic patterns, the legend, the occult rituals, the Freemasonic connections, that mysterious little castle carved in the walls and in the caverns long before the bones arrived. We also spoke about the repurposing of those old tunnels from Paris, what they originally were, supposedly underground beneath the city limestone quarries. And we also looked at Rome's ancient catacombs and how they might sit on top of much older pre existing tunnel systems. Thank you guys all for tuning in tonight live with me. I know it's late, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Hope you guys are having a great start to your weekend. And again, thank you so much for joining me to start it with you. Hey, Nephilim Hunter, how are you? Michael, Scott, King, good to see all of you guys in the chat tonight. Thank you. So, a couple other things that I have on deck for the evening is a little bit looking at the state capitals, the uniformed architecture all built at the same time in frontier states, the US Capitol as well, digging into a couple more of the catacombs. Like I said, we highlighted Paris and Rome yesterday. We'll go a little bit deeper into a couple more catacombs as well. And like I said, though, if you have any questions, comments, you can either drop them in the chat here, go into my description on my page wherever you are streaming, hit the link in there for my Discord or my link tree. You'll see all of my other pages also there if you are not a follower on any of them, TikTok, Facebook, X, etc. And you can just drop your chats right in the Discord, as well as, like I said, in the chat. If you have any submissions, anything like that, I'm the improbable dreamer at gmail.com. Any of your local finds, love to see some of your local mud flood evidence or hear some of your local stories. Had a great couple submissions yesterday talking about the catacombs. One from somebody in France as well, kind of just giving you their perspective being in Paris, France. Let me pull up that comment because that was a really good one. I took a screenshot of that. Let me see here. I think it was right there. Sorry, folks. So while I pull that up, just here we go. This one is from Video Riado 2011 on YouTube. Says, "Hi, I'm from France. Remember that the filling of Paris catacombs allegedly happened just before the French Revolution. Pure coincidence, of course, right? We are told that this was a deeply religious time. The king himself was a ruler of divine right. A Christian king piling up human remains in caves. Yeah, right. Think about the Palace of Versailles. Why would a true Christian king decorate his gardens with statues of Roman gods like Neptune, Apollo, etc.? Wouldn't he choose scenes from the Bible instead, like the life of Jesus and his apostles? In a religious era like we are told this was, the worshiping of mythological gods would have been considered a heretic. This makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. You are absolutely right there. That is a great point. Yeah, during a greatly religious period of France, that is when they chose to dig up all of these remains in the dark of night and pile them up. 6 million total, by the way, just to kind of give you guys a refresher on that. So 6 million total remains in the Paris catacombs, just to kind of show you a few photos highlighting Paris again. If you guys want another quick presentation of that, let me pull that up for you guys. So you can see just the beauty of how the Christian king at the time and the Christian rulers of France at the time decided to present their remains from overcrowding and from the plague. And whatever remains they didn't have, they would just pile up, much like this. Very, very, very creepy. And you will see the same presentation worldwide. It was not just France. We showed you a little bit of Rome yesterday. Let's dig into a couple more of these catacombs from last night and then start taking some of your questions from last night, your questions that are coming in now. Hey, DC, thank you so much for stopping by. Greetings to you as well. So let's leave Paris here and go to Palermo, Sicily, home of the Capuchin Catacombs, which might be the creepiest one of the entire ones on the list here. Let me pull up some of these photos for you so you can see. This, though smaller, a lot smaller than the Paris catacombs, the remains are presented in a very unique fashion in this ossuary. Let me pull that up for you guys. Just waiting for my slow computer to catch up. They have over 8,000 mummified bodies on full display. Many of them, uh, many of them are still dressed in their original clothes. Some standing upright, and some sitting on benches. Some even in family groupings. They have a very unique way of preserving these mummified remains. These aren't just skeletons, you can still see facial features, hair, clothing on many of them. They were preserved using a combination of dehydration and special chemicals, then put on display starting in the 16th century. The strangest part of these catacombs were originally they were only meant for the Capuchin monks, but wealthy families, according to the narrative, started paying to have their dead relatives placed here as a status symbol. So you have thousands of mummified people, men, women, children, and even babies just standing there staring back at you like this. Some of the bodies are so well preserved, they almost look like they died yesterday. The entire place feels like an underground museum of the dead. Very, 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 very creepy. One of the many creepy catacombs here. And I encourage you guys to kind of dig into just how many of them there are, because there are tons of them. Um, I just want to kind of highlight some of the bigger ones, some of the creepier ones that I left out from last night. The other area we're going to look into next is the Sedlik Ossuary in the Czech Republic, in Prague. And this one is another very, very similar to Paris, Rome, and just the presentation and the manner in which they present their dead. And of course, they're safe for specific religious purposes and such. Pulling this up here. So, one of the most famous and visually striking bone sites in the world is the Sedlik Ossuary in the Czech Republic, also known as the Bone Church. That's a no smoking sign. Guess they are flammable. Yeah, maybe, just maybe some of the embalmed mummies might be indeed flammable, especially how dried out some of those articles of clothing were. You definitely wouldn't want to smoke around those mummies. Absolutely right. So, this place in the Czech Republic contains between 40,000 and 70,000 human bones. A large amount, but still kind of pales in comparison to the 6 million figure in Paris. But again, you see them bleached and stripped and cleaned of their flesh and presented in the same dark type of sadistic way that you see in Paris and Rome. There's a massive chandelier, as you see in this photo, made entirely of human bones. There are bone pyramids in the corners. Now, if you can see it on this photo or not, there's bone pyramids in the corners of this bone church. The crosses and even a coat of arms made completely out of bones. There's another photo of that chandelier. Here is like a sick crown made out of bones. Another one, a decorative like grail of sorts inside kind of a cavern. Just look at the detail and intricacy of this. It's very, 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 very odd, very, very strange. And the fact that this is worldwide um, makes it even more darker. I don't see any way you can spin this as a religious type of Christian thing. It's just such a desecration of remains. Like, even looking at how old they are, I still just feel that their dead is so, like, not at rest on any of these sites. Probably for a reason, harnessing the human energy there, harnessing the power of dark energy. Just, yeah, very, very dark. Could the catacombs be the last generation of the old world that were killed so they could perform a reset at the beginning of the little season? Yes, I do believe the catacombs, the remains, the 6 million remains in Paris, especially, were indeed the remains in large part after the reset. They were not plague victims. They were not, monks or some members of the monastery. These were what they did with the dead after the reset, in my opinion. And the way they presented them almost as sadistic dark trophies, like they wanted them on display. And of course, the parasites that run the world today love to perverse and switch everything up. So what you're seeing here is, they put them in churches. They say they're religious and holy sites. But does any of this feel like holy? Like, do you get any type of religious vibes from any of these? I sure as heck don't. But what's really interesting in this timeline, of course, is the church was built in the 14th century, but the bones here weren't arranged in these elaborate displays until the 19th century, according to the narrative. This is the coat of arms arranged entirely of bones. Around the same time frame as the Paris catacombs is when these bones were arranged according to the mainstream narrative. So, two places in the world, two same exact times, two same exact patterns. And again, Rome was in the 2nd and 5th century according to the timeline, but these 2 ones, just the dark manner in which they're presented, just like the Paris catacombs and the intricacy. Like, who would possibly in their right mind handle bones like this? And especially in Paris, when they say most of them were plague victims. Michael, you said the official story there is plague victims and victims of the Hasidi's wars, which were 100 years after the plague. Yeah. Yeah. So the cemeteries were massively overfilled or overcrowded, and they had to dig up 6 million remains in these cemeteries. They couldn't keep them in the containers they already were in. They had to get them out of the containers and then strip off the clothing, strip off all the remaining flesh, and bleach them, all of that stuff, and then take the time to arrange them in this pattern. It just, yeah, it absolutely is BS. This was ritualistic, dark ritualistic. There's nothing religious about this other than it being very satanic religious wise. Definitely will go there. One other one I kind of wanted to highlight, show a few photos of, was the one in Lima, Peru. That doesn't really get talked enough about in these catacombs conversations. And this is on the other hemisphere. This is in the Americas. This place, the Convento de San Francisco in Lima, Peru, is estimated to hold between 25 and 70,000 skulls and bones, stacked in underground chambers. Some estimates put the total number of remains much higher, into the 200 to 300,000 range. But most experts agree somewhere between 25,000 and 70,000. And see, this is what's crazy is they give us this big elaborate spun story, but they can't even admittingly detail how deep these catacombs go, how much of the remains are. I mean, 25,000 and 70,000 and 200,000. That is a very large variance, you know? It's like if you ask me how much something is, and I'm like, oh, that's between $10 and $1,000. You know, it's kind of the same difference. It's, you know, they have just pulling numbers out their ass, can pardon my French. But yeah, much like Paris, these bones were moved from overcrowded cemeteries. That's the narrative we're given in Lima. Beneath the monastery, the tunnels themselves are very, very old and deep and extend deeply underground. Experts, again, much like the Paris catacombs, do not know exactly how far these caverns go. But what stands out is how organized it is. The bones are again neatly stacked in pits along the walls, like this one, almost like they are cataloged and stored. Some researchers point out that the timing lines up with other major bone moving operations around the world in the 18th and 19th century. So, again, they are putting this at the same exact timeline of the Paris catacomb moving, the Czech Republic catacomb moving, and now the Lima, Peru, all at the same time decided to dig up their overcrowded cemeteries and handle the overcrowding in this manner. Tell me any other time in history that we know of that being a thing. In modern times, when we have supposedly 8 billion people in this world, we never hear of such demonstrable overcrowding problems in any cemeteries. In fact, oddly enough, you never see any new cemeteries popping up for the 8 billion people in this world. And furthermore, we never see a problem where we have to remove millions of remains in the cloak of night and arrange them in such fashion to deal with overcrowded problems. It just doesn't exist. So when you look at places like Paris, Sedlik, Lima, the Capuchin Catacombs together, you start to see a very clear pattern. Multiple cultures on different continents, all suddenly deciding to dig up massive amounts of human remains and carefully arranging them, carefully stripping the bones, cleaning the remains, and carefully arranging them in undergrounds during roughly the same time period. That pattern is really hard to ignore and throws up many red flags, in my opinion. Just kind of show you a few more of these pictures from Lima, Peru here. So yeah, that's I wanted to highlight those three additional ones, uh, just how they have the same timeline given, the same odd handling of remains, both in such an intricate and detailed manner, and then just such a callous, like disrespectful matter. You see what they do with like the leftovers, it's like the leftover bits of wood in shop class just thrown into a bucket, just thrown into a pile. That's kind of what they did here. Further putting doubt, in my opinion, into the whole religious narrative, religious ceremonies, handling them in a careful, delicate, respectful manner. None of that seems to be what happens when you look at the behind the walls and behind the intricate, geometrically laid out caverns. The leftovers really kind of show that that whole narrative doesn't add up. So, just highlighting over a couple other catacombs around the world, real quick, just giving you the raw numbers. The catacombs in Poland has between 3,000 and 21,000 remains. Walls and ceilings covered in skulls, built in the 18th century using bones from local battlefields and cemeteries. The Hallstatt Beinhaus in Austria, sorry, has around 700 painted skulls. Skulls are beautifully painted with names, dates, and floral designs. The only place in the world where this specific tradition exists. Um, Portugal has a catacomb of over 5,000 skulls. The Franciscan monks built chapels with the inscription, "We bones lying here await yours." Very deliberate memento mori design. And let's see here. Milan, Italy. We covered a little bit about that. Milan has thousands of skulls, small chapels with walls completely covered in skulls and bones. And Wamba, Ossuary in Spain, is one of Europe's largest catacombs with over 100,000 remains. I do have a few pictures of that one in Spain because that is another creepy one that has the same pattern. Around the same time period as the Paris catacombs and all the other ones in Lima. This one I just got a few pictures of for you guys. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, waiting for my computer to pull that up. But yeah, one of Europe's largest 100,000 remains, various small bone chapels, chandeliers, little like bone figured. Here we go. This isn't Spain, by the way. So yeah, just kind of showing you how the world went mad at around the same period. My theory is they used rats to clean the bones, and then the grave keepers stack the clean bones. I mean, possibly, but that would be a lot of rats, David. I mean, that's a theory. Uh, I believe it was some kind of chemical process, especially how clean some of these bones look. Like they look very, very like bleached. I don't know exactly what kind of process they used here, but it was very dark. Like, look at how cleaned these bones are. Like, they aren't aged, they aren't yellowed or anything like that. Are you having glitches, Alice? It might be because the stream is kicked up to 1080p, streaming live, so if there's any glitches in that, it was a possibility. That's what I was figuring out. That's why it usually kinda defaults to 720p, but I'm hoping the 1080p isn't too glitchy for you guys. If you guys are getting some glitches, though, by all means, let me know. So, again, just closing on these catacombs here, when you step back, you see the same thing over and over again. Massive numbers of bones moved and artistically arranged long after the people died. Many of these sites were created or heavily expanded in the 1700s, 1800s, right in the window. Many in our circles associate with a post reset cleanup. So the levels of artistry, chandeliers, coat of arms, painted skulls, geometric patterns go far beyond simple "we ran out of cemetery space." And I will leave it at that for the catacombs. Would love to hear your guys' comments further about that. You know, we can discuss that in the coming days on Discord as well. I mean, that is just a dark dark rabbit hole to go down. And we covered about a half a dozen total catacombs from last night and tonight, but that really just really scrapes the surface of how many there are out there. Um, let's see here. Let's see. Say the photos are super crisp. Just when you are in frame, it goes to a lower resolution. Maybe just a setting to change. Yeah, yeah. I've been kind of tweaking with the settings on this platform, knowing that I can have a webcam going on my decrepit computer now, kind of tweaking with the visual aspects of the show. I take and welcome all of your guys' feedback as well. Anything that you guys notice, glitches, anything like that, let me know in the comments or just drop me a message, and I will kind of take care of them. Let's take a couple of your guys' questions here, and then I'll go into a couple more of the segments that I kind of gathered. A couple of you guys were talking about the capitals, so I decided to kind of do a little quick dive on those. In particular, my birth state, Iowa State Capital, the Impossible Prairie Palace. So we'll talk a little bit about those. Reminds me of the opening scenes with from Terminator 2 where the robots are walking on fields of bones. Yeah, it kind of does, Michael, those catacombs. And that's probably what these inheritors walked into, just fields of remains from the reset, from this fallen civilization. That's, you see worldwide, separate from the catacombs, so many of these cities have been found underground, like literally not just buried underground layers, but underground cities made from, far, far back, thousands of years, that could house up to 10,000 people in them, showing you that, this reset doesn't just happen with one great flood, one great calamity, one great disaster. And it's not just one area, it's worldwide. And it's probably why these elites are building these bunkers and these undergrounds today. They have the actual knowledge of when these reset cycles happen. They like to just keep us in the dark. We're just useless eaters to them. That's, and if they can't exploit us, they don't need us around during calamity. Once the calamity comes, they come back up from their underground bunkers, their underground sites, underground cities. They repopulate the realm, and then they exploit the useless eaters. But yeah, I mean, they had to do something with all those remains. from those founded cities. And my guess is that is what explains a lot of these catacombs. Like I said, it could be the mainstream narrative, but I don't think the mainstream narrative behind any of these make any sense. Another thing you guys had some questions on, I dropped a few videos that now that it's springtime, talking about one of my favorite little household experiments you guys can do with your kids at home this spring, planting your gardens, your vegetable gardens, your fruit gardens, whatever. Talking about electroculture. This is, something that the old world had signs of doing. I have a PDF that I can share with you guys here as well. Let's show you guys that. This PDF, let's see. Yeah, I'll have this on like my Telegram page and my Discord under the books tab. I can post it. But this electroculture book kind of shows you many, many different diagrams and shows you the expanded process they had behind that. Uh, this was by this gentleman here, and it shows, kind of simple mechanics, simple applications that you guys can do. And it's really a very simple process as well. You see, electroculture is a method of applying atmospheric electricity to the fertilization of plant life and has, during the past few years, developed to such an extent that it is today being practiced in many of the countries of the world: France, England, Canada, Germany, Switzerland, Ireland, Belgium, Denmark, Sweden, etc. Its success has been so marked that there are upwards of 1 million apparatuses in use in these countries, and its application is extending as its benefits become better known. So, this was a book written in the 1900s. I just kind of wanted to read that opening paragraph for you guys to show you how much the modern day has kind of regressed us in all areas. So, electroculture was a big thing in the mid to late 1800s, early 1900s. It was exploding onto the scene and going to all of these countries. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it stopped. And that knowledge just seemed to die in just a few generations. Like I've told you guys before, it only takes a few generations to truly erase our past, our history, and they do it with so many aspects. One of these things, one of these very simple processes are electroculture. You can see some small examples. You can do very intricate, I've seen very intricate rigs. I've seen very simple rigs. Me and my son have built a couple apparatuses in the last few years, and they definitely have an effect. I recommend, much like any scientific process, do with this year, plant two of the same exact type of plants, do them in two separate pots, one with an electroculture rod, one without. And I'll tell you guys, just, keep them in the same spot, keep giving them the same water, and you will definitely see a massive difference from the one with even the simplest electroculture object. But a lot of you guys were asking me, like, how do you make it? How do you build it? And really, all you need is just a spool of copper and some kind of stick. I mean, here's a simple step right there. I've seen people build like copper pyramids. Here's some of the apparatuses they were having in the past, in the 1800s, 1900s range. Some of these clips are from that book I showed you. And again, yeah, Michael, you are right. I will post it on Discord under books. You are right. Also, I'll post it on my Telegram, which, if you don't follow my Telegram page, Just hit my link tree in the bio wherever you're watching from, and it'll show you my Telegram page, my Discord page, wherever you have the inclination. I'll try and post it on multiple sites for you guys because it is a great book. It's like, what is like several hundred pages. Highly recommend it. 65 pages, sorry. But yeah, it just gives you everything from installation processes, shows you apparatuses for single plants, large gardens, show you another kind of screen grab from that book, going back to it. Yeah, so I mean, just you can do it from a simple garden, simple single plant, grounding rod apparatuses. You can go as crazy with it as you like, or as simple as you like. You can do it with trees. You can do it with, fruit producing plants, vegetables, flowers. They all have a large positive difference when you do it with electroculture. Have I ever heard of cloud busters? You ever made one of those? I have not, but I've heard of them and I've seen them in action, but I have not made one of them myself. But the method behind it is like, I believe, quartz crystals, taking like several stacks of copper tubes and just sticking it into the ground, pointing it up at clouds, and it actually dissipates the clouds. It's quite a fascinating thing. I've seen some videos on it. I'll see if I can pull those up too, because those are pretty cool, actually. Cloud busters. See if I can pull some up and show you guys later tonight. And they were using again that in the past as well. And that's something people are kind of rediscovering today and reinventing. And you can do it in a very small setup with just a couple copper tubes and make it much, much larger, kind of like with the electroculture process. So it's a great time to start whoever's starting their gardens. I'm trying to get there. Wisconsin has such bipolar weather this time of year. It gets cold, hot, and it's been raining nonstop for the last several weeks. Our lakes are flooded. It's over the banks now. I love it. I kind of love inclement rain weather like that where it starts flooding things, as long as it doesn't flood too much. But I mean, this is again a simple process. This is something like what I've made in my gardens. I don't go too crazy. I'm not too much on the mechanical aspect of things. I'm not the greatest with my hands, but this is kind of a simple design me and my son have made the last few years with great results. Just stick it into the ground on one end at the bottom. I don't know if you can quite see that here. And just kind of twirl it around a stick, a wooden pole. You don't even need to go and buy a wooden stick. You can just literally grab one off of a tree. That's what I've done. Just grab a couple pieces of dead sticks and fashion copper wire around it. I cleared my phone. It's definitely not my phone. Maybe a connection in between. It's only when Jacob's face goes on. Yeah, the photo goes blurry when that happens. Is that true? So when I'm on full screen, it goes blurry. It might be the revolution, or yeah, the resolution I have it on. I can't change the settings now while it's live, but maybe the next one I'll scale it back from 4K and go to 1080p and see if that makes it a little less. I'm actually surprisingly, and I usually am always the one having computer problems on my end, so I haven't really had any problems. Does it cut out when I do like this partial screen, guys? Is this better? Yeah, it is a new camera. So hopefully it is just a setting, Michael. You're absolutely right. We are only in episode 41. As quickly as time flies, I can't believe we were already on episode 41 here. It's still relatively new for me, still learning everything, kind of getting acclimated, trying to put on the best presentation I can to you guys every week and growing as I do so. So, any of your guys' feedback, keep them coming. show you guys a couple more simple apparatuses I've seen in my timelines over the years. So, the benefits of electroculture gardening: increased plant growth, improved plant development, more efficient use of space, reduced pest and disease pressure, improved aesthetics. That one might be subjective. Tips: choose the right plant, choose the right type of copper wire, prepare the copper wire, water your plant regularly. Basic, just everyday plant garden stuff. Copper wire, just make sure it's not galvanized, I believe. I've seen people have like a grounding nail attached to it as well. That's another. I just kind of stick the copper rod in one end of the ground, about, maybe 6 inches down, pretty close to the plant, and then just wrap it around a wire and kind of fashion the or wrap it around a pole, and then just fashion the end into kind of like an antenna. It's worked great for me just doing it simply like that. You can, you see here, this is a segment from the book. You can go very complex, and I've seen people go complex with amazing results, or you can keep it simple. But there's another design from the old world from that book. Just wrapping a couple poles, interlining them kind of like a close line. And yeah, I mean, you can go crazy with it. I'd love to see your guys's the ones that are particularly handy. I'd love to see what you guys come up with and the results you have. The microcurrent must bother the bugs. Yeah, it's kind of what I think of, with copper, because you're harnessing that ether energy, so it probably resonates in it and naturally enriches the soil as well. So it also acts as like, you know, kind of like a fertilizer as well. It's a full package. I have a question to anyone that can answer. I've been looking for the copper wire wrapped on the doll that was in the pic that Jake showed. Does anyone know where I can find it? Are you talking about like this? These are pretty much homemade. You can find ones that you can make online. I've made something very similar to this. Just go on Amazon, buy a spool of copper wire, Alice, and just, go to this hobby store, buy a wooden dolly or doll, and then wrap it around with that copper wire. That's all you have to do. Uh, you can buy, like, there's certain ones I've seen online like this. You can buy online, just do a Google search for electroculture rods or apparatuses, and you'll probably come up with people that are selling them now. They are becoming more and more of a popular thing now that people are becoming re-aware or re-acclimated to this technique. And again, it's just something they want us to stay buried. One of the obvious reasons is, big, big pesticide, big fertilizer, Monsanto and all that stuff, selling all of those chemical sprays that we put in our gardens and our yards to kill the weeds, to help our plants grow, all the pesticides and stuff. There's tons of natural stuff out there that doesn't cover your plants in poison, that doesn't harm the wildlife, but they can't make a quick buck off of that. It's, not much profit in a wooden stick and some copper wire versus a yearly supply needed of pesticides and fertilizers and weed sprays and all of this stuff. So that's just one main reason why they keep this stuff kind of buried, the electroculture side. But I mean, it was again part of the old world tech that was used for a long time. This is a plant that was grown with electroculture. I thought I had some more modern day results in here, but I guess not. You can search for them on your own, just electroculture results. You'll see tons of them on social media now. It's been a thing that has blown up in the last few years. People are waking up. It's not just the history, they lie to us about everything. Just wrap around the wire and have a piece of wire in the ground, and make sure after wrapping around a doll, have the end of the wire stuck up into the air. Exactly, Laura. Exactly. It's just that simple, folks. All you need is copper wire spool. It's maybe 10 bucks on Amazon and couple wooden sticks. That's all you need. Very, very, very simple process. Very, very simple. Okay, so let's talk about the Capitol buildings in America. Like I mentioned, I kind of got a little bit pulled up on those. Want to go into a further deep dive on all of the US capitals, but I thought today we would just talk about a few of them. One of my favorite US capitals, I might be biased because it is my home state, but it is really probably one of the at least top 5 of most beautiful capitals in this country. Talking, of course, about the Iowa State Capitol. It is the only 5-domed capitol out there, built in a relatively brand new period for the frontier state of Iowa. So, Iowa had only been a state for around 25 years when they decided to build this thing in 1870. They set a budget of $1.5 million at the time and specifically said they would not raise taxes to pay for it. Construction started in 1871, and almost immediately they ran into disaster. I love the fake construction photos here. They just look like models. Look at the little wooden shacks right next to this capitol. And again, if you know anything about construction, I mean, this you see no cleared site. See, it's just like right up next to fully grown trees, not at all what you would see in a construction area. And again, just right up to next to these little rickety little wooden homes. I mean, such a staunch comparison to what they were building and what they say they were building with these capitals. Yes, Iowa does indeed have a crazy number of old world buildings. I have a lot of family in the Davenport, Quad Cities area. My grandma uh, worked, several decades, most of her career in the military, as a civilian contractor for the Army at the Arsenal. And the Rock Island Arsenal, which is the largest, I believe, still is, largest munition storages in the country. And that is an old world fortress, an old world castle. Like that is just one of the many, many old world buildings in Iowa. But yeah, Iowa is rich with old world buildings, very much so. When I was just going to my grandma's funeral earlier this year, driving there, it was like a 7-hour drive, but I went through so many small towns in Iowa, so many old world buildings still left there. How come all of the Hollywood Westerns did not depict the true architecture of these cities? Yeah, that's true. I mean, when we think about like in our history classes and stuff, we're shown all of these frontier towns with just, these shacks like you see below this capital here. That's what we were always shown that the frontier towns were building. Yet we see these same type of palace architecture, these castle cathedral type buildings used as courthouses, city halls, post offices. And they show us these very obviously phony construction photos. I mean, there's no workers here, very rickety construction. It looks very old and weathered already. Like you can see kind of the cutout of the crane right here. Yep, very clearly altered. And of course, a whited out sky right here. That just shows like they're cutting out right from the skies on this photo. So those are the construction photos we see for a lot of them, but I mean, just look at the beautiful interior as well, inside and out. It's just one of my favorite state capitals. The original architect, though, like I said, almost immediately after they started construction here, they ran into disaster. They laid the foundation, the stones, and a brutal Iowa winter hit. The stones soaked up all the water like a sponge when it froze. Most of the stones cracked. They had to rip up the entire basement and start over with different stones. That was just the first year of construction for this capitol. The original architect, Alfred Pickernand, died in 1876. Another architect resigned. A third one left for DC. Only one guy, W.F. Hackney, stayed with the project from beginning to end. They were moving massive amounts of stones from multiple states, doing incredibly detailed interior work with 29 different types of marble, using all kinds of rare Iowa woods. The gilding domes with had real gold in them. All of this with horse teams, manual labor, no power tools, no heavy equipment, and very basic equipment. The building ended up costing $2.87 million, dollars, almost double the original budget. And get this, even after all that, a fire, all the time, these old world buildings suffer from fires. These capitals suffer from fires more frequently than a lot of the old world buildings do, actually. Madison's capital in Wisconsin suffered three major fires that burned big portions of the original Capitol building down. Iowa also had the fire in 1904, damaged a big chunk of the interior, pushing the final price tag of it close to $3.3 million. Dollars. This is one of the only five domed Capitol buildings in the entire country. It's the first five domed Capitol building in the country. And again, for a state that was only 25 years old at the time, even if you could build this in that period, why would you just go the most elaborate, over the top route for a little frontier state that was brand new like Iowa? You would think you would build simple and small first and maybe eventually work your way up to this level of beauty and intricacy. But no, in a state with no more than a few 100,000 people at the time, less than 25 years old, they made a massive five-domed capitol. And look at some of these interior shots. The most beautiful library you'll ever see, a beautiful spiral staircase in this capitol always impresses me. Another very hilarious construction photo, because you always see all of these old world buildings like these built in the middle of nowhere, just a desolate field. And this is the workers putting the final touches on the exterior landscaping. I mean, just look how silly, and look at these, like, look like these stone bricks were dug up. They look very old, very weathered, and supposedly these three gentlemen are doing all this work. The only three construction workers I've really seen in any of these construction photos of the Iowa State Capitol. Just look at that rotunda. Like, that is just beautiful. Beautiful detail. All done for a little frontier state. And maybe if Iowa was a separate location or like an isolated incident, like just one state just wanted to go hog wild, over the top on their state capital, I could maybe see it. I mean, I guess Iowa really wanted to be the best, but this is like it for every single state pretty much, and they all decided to pick the same design palette. Even the US Capitol, they all just decided to, like, have the same kind of design scheme, the same big giant dome, the same rotundas, and all being built around the same time frame, the same period. This level of detail and craftsmanship is insane for what was still very much a frontier state. And the interiors, I mean, they always sit on top. A lot of these capitals, you'll notice, always sit on top of these hills, like on top of one of these mounds. You know, America has, they call them mound builders, mound sites. They're just buried and sunken ruins that were never uncovered, buried pyramids and such. Tons of them along the Mississippi River Valley. Wisconsin, Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota all have tons of these mound sites. Now it's known for cornfields and deer hunting. Yeah, absolutely, and pork. Uh, Iowa pork is some of the best. And for being the improbable dreamer, your, beloved host birth state, so Iowa's got that going for it, right, guys? Iowa had to be a center of power in America for the old world. Yeah, I believe looking at a lot of these Midwest states, they call them the Rust Belts now, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, they all do seem to be a very, like, central hub, and it kind of is used today as a hub, like a transportation hub, but they do look like they once had much larger cities, like a much larger presence in the old world. When you look at Detroit, even before the automobile boom, massive, massive city there. Beautiful city, all with that ornate Romanesque architecture, like, just beautifully over the top architecture that now, like, they have a literal, like, cathedral that is now a parking lot. Like, they have the interior of the building with all the beautiful ornate insides of it now kind of falling apart, but it's a parking lot. It's literally a parking lot in Detroit. That's how we treat all these old world structures. So the pattern is the same across all of these states. This isn't just Iowa. The same story repeats in state after state during the late 1800s. Really just kind of pick your state and you will find the same over the top construction and beautiful capitals all being built literally in the same window. I got a few examples to kind of highlight them for you. I've done a few videos in the past on all of these state capitals, but I just really kind of wanted to show you some of these similarities behind them. Sorry, I know I didn't mean to make my full screen, so hopefully it's not freezing your screen too much there. Let me just wait, pull that up for you guys. Keep your questions coming in as well. So whether you look at Minnesota, Texas, Kentucky, Rhode Island, Michigan, Colorado, they're all building these ridiculous, ornate, European-looking palaces while the states are still young and relatively poor with a very low taxpayer base. $3 million in the 1800s is a huge amount of money. Let's um let's just kind of do a little comparison to that. $3 million 1850s worth today. Approximately $127 million today. So $3 million in 1850 is approximately $127 million today, just to kind of give you guys the rough estimate. That is a heck of a lot of money for a frontier state with very few taxpayers to collect from. And they apparently didn't even have to raise taxes to do it. So were these state capitals, these massive structures already there? Or did they just magically have the funds, the skilled masons, the materials just abundantly laying around in these frontier states, the horse and buggy supply lines to deliver all these materials. I mean, did they really make these with all that material, with with all of that horse and buggy labor, with no power tools, no cranes, no heavy equipment in the mid 1800s at the same time? Doesn't really add up to me. So here is a few more examples of just the over the top capitals in these relatively frontier states. We have the California state capital here. Very beautiful, very much looking like the US Capitol building in Washington, which is the same with a lot of these. This is the Colorado Capitol building. Again, beautiful domes, same kind of Greek Romanesque architecture, beautiful columns and pillars, intricate carvings, all standing like you see on the Colorado, all standing up on top of a hill here. California kind of stands up on top of a hill too. You can't really see it in these pictures, but this one, Connecticut, again, just way over the top. Same kind of beautiful gold dome. Rose onyx. Yep. Yep. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Freemasons. You got it. Freemasons founding all this free architecture left over from the last reset, folks. I grew up in a town in the Rockies of Colorado where it snows 9 months each year and the ground is all rocks. Yet the downtown was is made of brick and has a brick underground. Crazy. Yeah, that's a great statement. Yeah. So even up in the Rockies, Angel is saying that she has a town that has a massive brick underground, a beautiful brick downtown, and it snows 9 plus months out of the year. Yeah, I've been to some of those cities in Colorado, high up in the Rockies, and yeah, it can be stay snowing almost year round there. And even then, they were somehow able to in the 1800s, same time period, dig up these basements, dig up these massive tunnel systems, and have all of the red bricks laying around in abundance to build these massive buildings. Really just does not add up. This one is another one from Connecticut's state capital. Look at just all of the sacred geometric symbols and signs and ether antennas galore. This one is from Illinois. This is a beautiful state capital. I've been up close to it. They all have these same fronts too. These not just the domes, but these same pillars, these same columns, same kind of awning. If you notice as well. I mean, if you're spending this much money as a state, do you think you want to like separate yourself from your neighbors? No. Like, why would they all feel the need to build in this same exact architecture style? Would you not want to separate yourself from stand out from another state? You know, like every state has a license plate slogan, you know, the Dairyland, the land of Lincoln, first in flight, you know, like they all want to be known for something to stand out. That's part of the beauty of America, at least in my opinion, it always has been. You know, that each state is kind of its own little country, its own little ecosystem, its own little sphere. Um, like Michigan from Wisconsin, like just the scenery is completely different from one state to the next, but the people, the traditions, their foods, you know, like Wisconsin, you know, we love our dairy, we love our booze, obviously, too. We're one of the drunkest states, but uh, cheese curds are a huge thing around here. Fried cheese curds, squeaky cheese curds, the whole thing. I lived in Illinois, northern Illinois, just right south of the border of Wisconsin, and cheese curds were not a thing at all. Just like 20 miles from the border of Wisconsin. I barely heard of them until I moved up here, met my wife, and every restaurant has some kind of cheese curd, some kind of fried cheese thing. I love it. It's delicious, don't get me wrong, but it's just, it's amazing. Every state has their own like foods, their own thing, but not their state capitals. No. We all have to have the same uniformed architecture style. Just another one of Illinois state capital. Or no, this is Kansas's state capital, sorry. I mean, they look so much the same that it kind of is really kinda hard to tell them apart. This is Kentucky state capital, again, that same entryway, those big stairs leading up to this big over the top area, the carvings, the columns are all just identical, it's not just the dome. I have never had fried cheese curds. I love cheese, never seen them in California. Oh, Alice, you are missing out. Guys, you are missing out. If you have never had cheese curds, if you've never had Culver's, shout out to Culver's. They're not a sponsor, but if they want to sponsor me, I will absolutely love to take that sponsorship. Yeah, you don't do cheese curds in Michigan either, right? And you're my neighbor. And when I lived in Illinois my whole life, I barely ever heard of cheese curds until we got a Culver's, and then that was, like, the only restaurant that had cheese curds, but I don't understand it. It's the most simplest thing. I can't believe every state everywhere in the world doesn't have them. Little balls of cheese rolled up in dough and fried. Like, they're so delicious, folks. You guys are missing out. You can make them yourself. Homemade cheese curds. Do it. Or come visit me in Wisconsin, go to Culver's. You guys will love them. But as each state has their own unique dishes, not their unique capitals, as you can see. This is another one of Kentucky. This one is of Michigan's beautiful capital, talking about Michigan, my next door neighbor. You'll see the same kind of front face of the building, same columns here, same domes. They're all just the same type of architecture style. They all use the same basic design language, massive domes, giant columns, perfect symmetry, incredible detailed stonework. It's like someone handed out the same architectural playbook to every state in the country, and all at the same time. This is Minnesota's capital, another beautiful, beautiful capital. Where did a brand new state like Iowa, for example, get these still skilled craftsmen to do that level of work? Where did the money really come from? Sure as heck wasn't from the taxpayers that they had. How did they coordinate this level of grandeur across so many states at the exact same time in history? This is Oregon's capital. Again, whited out skies here, very edited looking photo, but you can see how weathered and aged it already looks. And this is supposedly around the time of completion of it being brand new, squeaky clean. Please, grand dumb buildings were built according to the fake narrative. Wikipedia within a couple of years by some cowboys who pooped in the out. Yeah, yeah, they were all like in wooden shacks. The people that you see in the wooden shanties and shacks were building buildings like this. They just had the abundance of skilled masons galore. All of these state capitals were mostly built in just a few years' time, actually. I think Iowa's capital was built in 15 years' time, and by old world standards, that's an eternity. I don't know why they took so long there in Iowa. Maybe it was because of the freezing cold. The other thing about these state capitals, not only the uniformed architecture, but they all had these no-name architects in mysterious design contest. It wasn't like the same architect as, you know, one could think that it might be with this is another photo, beautiful photo of Oregon's capital in the snow. One might think that it was the same architect with the same playbook building these all over the world, but All of these state capitals were, for the most part, built by no-name architects and chosen by mysterious design contest. Another thing that keeps showing up in so many of these Capitol buildings. They're supposedly designed by relatively unknown architects who just so happened to win a design contest. A guy with not much of a track record submits a design and suddenly gets to build one of the most important and elaborate buildings in an entire state. Some of these architects barely have any other major works to their names. So they would have like one accreditation and it would be this beautiful state building that they just so happened to win in a contest, a design contest. I mean, you don't see design contests for buildings like this thrown out there in the newspapers today by any means. No, I mean, you have to go to school and you have to study architecture and have a portfolio before you get anywhere close. You have to spend, probably a decade as an architect designing porta potties before you can work up to a big building of anywhere near to this scale. Certainly not just handing them out to anyone off the streets that happens to draw a pretty building and draw a pretty building that looks just like they copied it from the state next door. In my father's house, there are many mansions. I go there to prepare a place for you. Okay. Um, so thankful this is live right now. Hey, Matt, well, I'm so thankful that you are here live as well. Let's take a quick minute sponsor break. We'll jump back into more of the state capitals, talk a little bit more about DC's capital, take some more of your questions for Open Lines Friday as well. Be right back with you, folks. Stick around. A quick shout out to this program's sponsor, Riverside. If these live shows sound smooth and clear, that's Riverside making it happen. Killer audio, zero hassle, and it works every time, even on long nights like tonight. I've tried a bunch. This is the one that actually delivers. Want to start your own podcast? You should totally do it. Make your voice heard. Grab my link in the bio or show notes. It's an affiliate link, helps support the show, costs you nothing. Thanks for listening. Now back to the mysteries. All right, all right. King, you said I was told that Indiana is the elite's favorite state. I don't know why, maybe because it's known as the crossroads of America. That shows you how backwards the elites are and how much they're completely different from us, right? I don't know anyone, including people from Indiana, that Indiana is their favorite state. Uh, it is just, I mean, aside from Indianapolis, there's really not much there. It's pretty much, and I grew up in Illinois and places like Wisconsin and Iowa. I mean, Iowa's my birth state. It's cornfields. Like, it's more interesting of a drive than Indiana. That just shows you how backwards the elites are there, King. But yeah, I've never heard that Indiana is favored by the elites or not. But interesting, interesting. If so, I asked my friends to pick a state and a country at random, and we will Google their Capitol building, and they all look the same. That's a good game to play. That is a good game to play. Kind of like the Google Street View game you can play with like countries like India and stuff. If you haven't heard of that one, yeah, the loser when the state capital does not look, or the national capital building does not look the same, then you lose. But pretty much you'll find the same looking ones in every state. This one is Texas's state capital here. That's a beautiful one too. Again, it looks how it's built on like a risen little mound, just surrounded by nothingness around it. This is my state of Wisconsin's state capital in Madison. Beautiful building, beautiful building. Caught fire 3 times. The first one burned down, the second one pretty much burned down, and this is the 3rd iteration of it. But it is a very beautiful building. Looks pretty much like a mini US Capitol building. Uh, so yeah, I mean, just showing you guys a few of the US state capitals, but yeah, and again, you were absolutely right there. Um, I don't know who said that, lifting, I believe. You just look at any capitol building anywhere in the world, anywhere in the country, and they all have like this same domed shape, same design. Very, very interesting. Interesting if they'd be on ley lines or portals. I haven't heard too much about that, but a lot of these old world architectures, old world buildings, these old world structures, a lot of them are built on ley lines, energy points, energy grids. So I'm wondering if some of these capitals would also be built on them. I went to the university in Iowa, Go Hawks, studied architecture. The state capitol building in Des Moines is another world, and inconceivable that Pioneer had the know-how to construct. Yeah, yeah, and again, relatively brand new state, 25 years old, just a baby, and they built that beautiful state capitol. Go Hawks, though, University of Iowa, absolutely, absolutely. So, looking at the DC Capitol as well, just to kind of show you how exactly the same as it is. It's like they all copied from the same paper and class, right? Let me pull up some of those, get to a few more of your guys' questions as well. This is the beautiful, beautiful US Capitol. Wait for that to pull up here. Okay, US Capitol building. And the dome was built during the Civil War period. They tell us the big cast iron portion of this dome capital was built between 1855 and 1866. That means they were constructing this massive iron dome weighing millions of pounds while the country was literally fighting a civil war. They were using the Capitol as a hospital and a barracks as well during the Civil War, one of the most bloodiest wars in America's history. And they were also building a millions of pound cast iron dome. They were using the Capitol as a barracks, as a hospital, and as a construction site. And they were even baking bread in the basement for troops. Yet somehow they continued to work on this enormous, intricate dome project during the bloodiest war in America's history. The dome is all cast iron, as I said. They had to manufacture and lift millions of pounds of iron using steam powered derricks. They placed the Statue of Freedom, that little statue right there you see in the top of this picture, on top in December 1863, right in the middle of the war. The logistics of doing all of this, and again, that's where my expertise comes in from a freight and shipping logistics auditor. The logistics of doing all of this during a civil war while the nation was tearing itself apart just doesn't add up. It's another one of those projects that looks way too advanced for the official story. Keep in mind, with the official story, they stopped the Washington Monument halfway through construction. And that's why, if you notice, there's two different colors of granite stone that they used for construction. That's because they had to stop during the Civil War period, they say. They had to stop one monument, but they decided to continue working on the massive dome for the US Capitol at the same time. So, just very odd conflicting narratives we have with the construction of just a few of the mini buildings in DC. And we can go on a whole deep dive on Washington, DC. Maybe we should in an upcoming episode, kind of like we did with Chicago and New York, because Washington, DC is ripe in Masonic symbolism, these streets laid out in a pentagram, all of that stuff. All these monuments just look like they were built in the middle of a swamp. surrounded by nothing but swampland, like the Lincoln Memorial. I showed a few photos of that. And I just look at this like covered wagons, just slabs of stone laying in the field next to the US Capitol, and shacks all around it right up next to the Capitol. These people that built these rickety shacks are also the ones they're saying built this beautiful, massive Capitol in the middle of the bloodiest battle in America's history. Well, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is kind of fun. That's true. The Indy 500 is very awesome, only because I live near it. Other than that, Indiana is boring. Hey, I love the state of Indiana. I've lived and most of my life in the Chicagoland area. Visited Indiana most of the time, but driving through it, King, very, very boring. Indianapolis, the Indy 500, very great highlights of your state. Very much so, very much so. But I wouldn't want to take a trip driving it. I can't believe Donald Trump's going to mess with an old world building like the White House right in front of our face. Yeah, there's something about that ballroom, isn't there? Right after that latest assassination attempt, and what that makes number 3 or 4 or 5 of, like, assassination attempts on the man, which, whatever your political views are, folks, and my views are that both parties are just a nothing but a psyop, but still, violence is never the answer, and, whether or not they were staged or there's evidence on much of that too, but whether or not, I mean, just you see people like there was a teacher up in one of my school districts nearby that got fired because he was crying on Facebook that the shooter missed. I mean, that's wrong. That's just disgusting. But oddly enough, talking about the psyops and stuff, immediately after the supposed incident at the Washington the press thing, it's the correspondence, Washington press correspondence dinner, the only one that the president's ever attended, mind you. Right after that, tons of conservative ink influencers on Twitter and stuff all tweeted the same thing. Oh, that's why we need a ballroom. That's why we need a ballroom. Like, just very odd, coordinated type of bot level talk right after the incident at the press gala. And of course, you have the widow Kirk at the press gala, just so happened to walk past the camera filming her. And at that time, I just want to go home. Terrible performance. 0 out of 10. She definitely needs better acting lessons, in my opinion. Dome, vaults, cupolas, cathedrals, house of God, from Domus House, Roman influences in government buildings, Roman numerals on most. Yeah, and yep, absolutely right, Rick. Romanesque architecture throughout America makes you really wonder, did the Roman Empire really fall or did it just get rebranded, renamed? And they're still controlling us to this day. That's one of the main theories. It's just Rome has just gotten rebranded over the years. It's never really, the Roman Empire's never really fallen. We're still under the heels of it, run by the parasitic elites today. The roads here in Indy suck. It's like, yeah, well, the roads aren't much better here in Wisconsin, though they are far better than Illinois' roads. Illinois' roads suck. And what's hilarious to me about that is Wisconsin has no toll highways. We don't have to pay tolls on any of our highways. Illinois, you have to pay like it's like so many toll roads, especially if you get into the Chicago area. But it's like $2 for a toll going into Illinois from Wisconsin, and they have some of the worst roads despite the millions and millions they take in revenue a year from tolls. All of our governments are just corrupt. They just collect all this money and they clearly don't spend it on any of the infrastructure here. That's another rabbit hole to go down. I mean, our infrastructure is falling apart. Literally, I seen a video on TikTok. Somebody was driving on the highway in St. Louis and a big portion of the bridge just there's a big massive hole in it. And it's just like the steel, rusted out steel rebar, all that remains. And it's a big drop. It's like a 50-foot drop to the bottom of this bridge. And it's just right on a major highway. It's like perfectly sums up the US infrastructure. We're supposed to be the most technologically advanced, have the most, advanced heavy machinery, most advanced construction methods, construction techniques, and we can barely maintain the infrastructure that was built for us by people in horse and buggy. Make it make sense. And we surely can't build anywhere near to their degree of architectural beauty. I mean, just look down your main street roads and compare them to your modern day constructions in your cities. It's just nowhere close to what level of craftsmanship that the horse and buggy people were making. My political party is between the Anti-Federalists and the Whig Party. That sounds about right. Yes, Devil Dog. Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe the political party system is one of the biggest successful modern day psyops that they've pulled on us. I mean, once it was just, a matter of left versus right, then, so easy to divide us just on that basis alone. And that's what the parasites today want to do with us. They want to keep us divided into smaller and smaller groups and fighting each other so we never realize who's really got their boots on our necks. It's not our neighbors, it's the parasites that run the show. Absolutely. Well, folks, it has been a great Open Lines Friday. We've talked about some of the Capitol buildings in America. We talked about some of the catacombs across this world. And we took some great questions, comments, and feedbacks from all of you great folks. Appreciate all of you so much for tuning in live to the start of your weekend. I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. I hope it's a beautiful weekend out for you guys. Supposed to get up into the 60s here for us and no rain finally. So, gonna get out and enjoy some beautiful weather myself. Hope you guys do the same. Don't spend all your time deep in those rabbit holes. Come up for some fresh, beautiful air. Enjoy this beautiful world around us. And always remember, though, folks, question everything, the narrative that they give you. Again, thank you so very much for tuning in live. Have a great weekend. I will see you guys Tuesday, 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time live. We'll continue to question everything. Until next time, folks. Shabbat shalom, daddy's home. Oh gosh, I just seen all your guys' things. I had to say that. But I just wanted to drop one more quick statement. I seen lifting the veil. When are my live streams? Just found my channel. Hey, glad you found my channel. My live streams, folks, are every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday night, 10:30 p.m. Central Standard Time live. We go about till 12 o'clock every night. Sometimes and during the summer times, might not always have these 3 streams. Maybe sometimes we'll even have some bonus episodes, but those are the standard, schedule now, lifting the veil, and for everyone else that found my channel recently, just wanted to jump back on and say that. Have a great weekend, guys. Question everything. Until next time, Shabbat Shalom. Daddy's home.